been punched in the face by a tiny person? And I mean like unexpectedly. Like everything was going fine and then suddenly wham. It's like suddenly without warning you realize that this individual was deeply flawed in a particular way. And I don't mean deeply flawed like listens to Nickelback. Look at this photograph. Although that would be cause for concern. I mean deeply flawed like put the lotion in the basket or it gets the hose again.
It rubs the lotion on its skin.
Yeah, welcome to the Hyundai Kona N line. What's going on, everyone? Jax here, and today I'm with the 2022 Hyundai Kona N line. Not the N, the N line. Yeah, we're gonna get to this thing's primary flaw in a second. I'm gonna tell you why it was so unexpected and so disappointing. Mainly because there's a lot to like here, like the styling in my opinion. While the Kona isn't for everyone, personally, currently, I think it's one of Hyundai's better looking vehicles, which sort of alternate between interesting, said in the tone of someone who's on an archaeological dig.
That belongs in a museum!
And hideous, said in the tone of someone who just watched Linda Blair's head come around in The Exorcist. I think the Kona looks pretty good in N-line trim, especially in this color blue, which is called My Credit Score Wasn't Good Enough for the Real N Blue. But don't worry. You get these N-looking wheels, which are hiding nothing at all, wrapped in Goodyear tires that are good for driving.
Don't worry about that.
Power comes from a 1.6-liter turbocharged four-cylinder, making 195 horsepower and 195 pound-feet of torque. However, the Kona's over 7-second 0 to 60 time will make you wonder where some of those horses stampeded off to. The Kona N never really feels fast, which is a shame because it's doing its sort of best visual impression of the full-on N. It's really trying to sell you on those looks. And, you know, to the average passerby, it would largely succeed. Unless, of course, you got in one and rode in it, because then you would see that the 7-speed dual-clutch transmission in this particular model is, to put it charitably, it's hot garbage. Oh, yeah, it's crap. But we're gonna get to that in a second. Let's talk about some of the more dynamic characteristics here really quickly. The steering is pretty good. There's not a lot of feel. It's a little bandy, as I like to say, when there's not a lot of feel. But the steering quickness is nice off center. It's reasonably fast and accurate, so I don't really have any complaints at this price point, at least not as far as steering is concerned. Same thing with the throttle and brake calibration. It's fine. This car drives really nicely. In fact, that's kind of going to become a running theme of this little insert. Mainly because this chassis is really good. The suspension is really nice for a small vehicle that, and this is an N line, so it's not the full N, that has sporting pretensions, but is not necessarily itself sporting. And to be honest, that's admirable, because this car feels like it is capable of so much more, mainly because it is. But when we take it here on the handling road, you're gonna see what I mean. It just feels so much more capable that one certain aspect of it is allowing it to be. So I'm gonna give you the honey before the vinegar, and the honey is, on the handling road, this car shines. This is a small vehicle with a short wheelbase, but the suspension is supple. I'm going over this first rough patch here, and it is just soaking it up. It's not getting out of sorts, and it is just controlling itself. Going through the first corner, I'm taking it probably faster than I should be, and the steering is just a tiny bit off center, gets you a nice direct response. It just feels like a fun and playful chassis. That's what I like the most about this thing, is it feels fun and playful and dynamic. It has the capability, and the ride over this surface is it's commendable, honestly, for a vehicle of this size. It is commendable. This is a well-tuned car. Coming up to the big bump, it's not going to be an issue, and it's not at all. So I am impressed with the way that this thing handles the handling road, where the surfaces are challenging, even to some very high-end cars. And this thing has no issue. Now let's get to the bad part. Let's see if I can provoke it right now. There it goes, that's stuttering. This 7-speed dual clutch transmission is trash. And you could say put it in sport mode and do it manually, which you don't have shift paddles. You have to use the gear lever, which whatever, I don't care. But no, it's just trash. And I don't know, and I'm gonna be 100% honest with you, if it's just this example, because it is a test vehicle, so maybe it's been abused. It only has about 5,500 miles on it as of right now. But the low speed behavior of this dual clutch is just garbage. It's just garbage. It's unsure of itself. It doesn't know how much torque to give you. It feels like it hustles itself up to 4th or 5th gear as quickly as possible, and then it doesn't want to kick down. And if you roll onto the throttle in a smooth manner from a slow speed, it just jerks you, like it just throws itself into gear. Like, I'm not really sure what you're trying to do here, man. I'm trying to drive smoothly in an everyday daily driver car. What do you think I'm trying to do? And that happened frequently. That was not like a one-off thing. I've complained, if you go back and watch the video of when we got Ella's car, it's a 2017 RAV4, they were known for having a little bit of like low speed transmission issues where the automatic would get flustered if you came to a stop and then set off again at a medium pace quickly. But that's like every once in a blue moon. This thing does it like almost every time, and it's infuriating. It is by far the worst part of the driving experience, and I would definitely test drive a Kona in a very normal kind of driving environment before you settle in on this transmission. Now, keep in mind that this does not necessarily apply to the Kona N, because I have driven the Veloster N, I noticed no such behavior, and I freaking love that car. I love the Veloster N. I sing its praises constantly, and the Kona N is virtually the same. So I don't know if it's just this example, but I have to tell you guys about it because it is just egregiously bad. Now, other than that, the seats are good. This cabin is spacious for a taller individual. I'm 6'6". Regular viewers of the channel are well aware of that by now. Oh, and another thing that I'll point out is that on the first day I had this car, I ended up driving it all across Atlanta, unforeseen circumstances, we'll say. And so I used the adaptive cruise control a lot, and it is generally excellent in a car in this price range of this sort of like caliber. The adaptive cruise control is phenomenal. The infotainment system is Hyundai's excellent system. I've got no complaints there. I probably talked about it in the regular portion. And in general, I think the materials are, well, if I'm being honest, they're okay at this price. They look better than they feel, so there's that. I mean, this one is optioned up to about 31 grand, which it's a lot of money, and you can't ignore the fact that the Honda Civic is a thing, and that car's interior is superb at this price. So, you know, keep that in mind. But I think it's okay, especially with the way car prices are now. It's just absurd. Basically, I think at the starting price of the Kona, the materials in here are totally fine and 100% acceptable. At this car's 31 grand price with the N-line trim, not as much. So, quick summary of the Kona N from behind the wheel here. Not enough to do a separate video, so I'm inserting this into the main review. Chassis, excellent. Driving dynamics, fantastic. Everything about this car on the interior is a plus, except the transmission, which is a black hole of despair. But other than that, the Kona N-Line isn't really bad at all inside. This model has the tech package, which gets you the upgraded 10.2-inch infotainment display running Hyundai's generally excellent infotainment system. You also get comfy and supported seats, which are heated, and that's nice. We've had a couple cold nights here, and I appreciated the heated seats, along with a sunroof or moonroof or whichever one it is, and the sort of digital gauge cluster out of the Hyundai Elantra. The plastics in here are fine in the same way that plain mashed potatoes are fine.
That doesn't make sense.
But to be honest, the digital gauge cluster here kind of looks like an afterthought with sort of a cheap plastic bezel, like the rectangular screen was just kind of shoved in there and they were like, yeah, that'll fit. It's good. It's fine even. Kind of like one of the engineers found it on the floor of the Elantra line and they were like, what if? Look, I'm not trying to be overly critical here, but this thing, as you see it, rings in at $31,000. And for 31 grand, there are a lot of better options, at least versus this particular trim. Would you like to hear some of those better options? You can fully load up a Nissan Kicks for somewhere about the mid-20s, and the new Toyota Corolla Cross, which has about the most imaginative name since the Halloween store that springs up on your local corner every year, can be had for around the same, kind of the mid-20 range. Of course, that comes with Toyota's current infotainment system, which is now older than Warren Beatty. You don't know who Warren Beatty is? Well, he was Dick Tracy. You don't know who Dick Tracy is? I don't know, ask your dad. Oh, and I'm not done yet. The truly excellent Honda Civic, which, yes, I know is a car, but you can get it as a hatchback, can be had for about the same price as this Kona N-Line. And I can't even stress how ridiculous that is. The Honda Civic is, like, by far the best car in its class. It is phenomenal. Go test drive one right now. Just go. Leave the video, go. And a nicely optioned Chevy Trailblazer Active, which you might have seen recently on the channel. If you haven't, link in the description, as usual, can be had for about $1,500 more than this N-Line, and it's better in almost every measurable way, so it's easily worth that. Like, that's not much when it's financed over 12 years. I'm sort of kidding. So should you buy a Hyundai Kona N-Line? Well, no, not unless you're stupid, or you really, really want to play dress up like you got a Kona N. If you want a Kona, buy one of the other trims and save some money. I think when the Kona is not trying to be a fake N, it's actually quite good. Go rewind and watch the driving portion. There is a lot of potential here. And the Kona N, for all intents and purposes, looks awesome. I haven't driven it yet, but I love the Veloster N. It's freaking amazing. It's not that the Kona N-Line is an objectively bad vehicle. Well, the transmission's objectively bad, but the Kona N-Line's not objectively bad. It's just, it's bad when it's trying to be something it's not. It's a solid, small crossover with really excellent driving dynamics and a very compelling options list that just happens to be saddled with an utterly ridiculous transmission. Guys, thanks so much for watching. I hope you found this video useful. I generally like the Hyundai Kona. I just think that it is deeply flawed in this trim. I think the 7-speed dual clutch is unacceptably erratic in its behavior, and hopefully that's something that can be sorted out maybe with some different transmission mapping or programming. Other than that, this is a really solid little vehicle, and you should definitely check it out and see if you find the transmission to be as problematic as I did. Maybe you don't, or maybe this is just a kind of well-worn example. Testers lead hard lives, I say that often, so maybe it's a one-off, but I have to be honest with you and tell you my experience with it here. So I hope you found that valuable. I hope you found it useful. If you want to stick around, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. And until next time, ride safe, drive safe, and I will catch you in the next review. All right, peace. We're also stuck behind what appears to be about a 2007 Toyota Avalon driving about 10 under the speed limit. So 3 guesses the age range of the driver. Old, older, and reanimated corpse. And we are braking for what can only be described as a 2-degree turn. Also, what the heck was going on right there? There was a Jaguar in a ditch and a Toyota Corolla. That looked like a situation.